Welcome back to 3 Ways to Build, where we break down popular Minecraft builds 3 different ways. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a kind of build that really almost every Minecraft player builds at some point or another in their survival world, but usually it's not something that people really give a lot of aesthetic attention to, if you get what I mean. And of course, we're talking about farms. Every Minecraft player builds a farm at some point or another in their Minecraft world, but usually they're just meant to be functional. You know, they don't often have a lot of aesthetic value or are incorporated into the build in some way. They're just there to be practical, but it doesn't have to be that way at all. As you guys know by now, we're going to be looking at the basic, insane, and a balanced version of a farmland in Minecraft. And before we get into it, quick shout out to Sadit Sarkar, who suggested today's video idea. Thank you very much for the comment, and I will definitely be keeping an eye out for more suggestions from you guys in the future. Alright, now on to our basic build, and today I've actually got 3 different designs for you guys. Wow, they look old-fashioned. I'm sure you guys have seen a farm in at least one of these styles before, if not made one of your own, probably several times over the course of all your Minecraft worlds. We've got like the really basic, just plop down some wheat on like a shoreline. This is just, pretend this is the ocean or a river or something. I know, very convincing. We've got this very basic kind of grid pattern here, which you often see in villages, kind of. And some of you guys might have gotten even a little bit fancier and made something along the lines of this. This is, of course, your standard wheat farm, but it has a tiny bit of redstone functionality. If you couldn't tell by now, all you gotta do is flick the lever and all of the crops get harvested. All of these farms are incredibly simple. This one's maybe a tiny bit more complicated than the other two, purely just because it involves a little bit of very basic 2011 Unga Bunga redstone, but aesthetically speaking, they're all pretty much the same, using very basic bare bones materials, not much thought put into the layout or the looks of it, really just going for function over form. And for most Minecraft players, that is totally fine. Function over form, especially for something like a wheat farm, is totally valid. But that's not what we're here to do today, and in my opinion, all of these farms look absolutely terrible. I can say that because I made them myself. And for today's insane build, I've took a lot of inspiration from like old school, rustic European farmlands, right, with their hedgerows and their cobblestone walls and their vast rolling hills of different kinds of crops and stuff. And of course, like in our other 3 Ways to Build videos, I was able to get the construction of our insane farmland entirely in a time lapse. So, I hope you enjoy. Alright, let me know down in the comments what you thought of the time lapse. I really enjoy them and I always think they're pretty neat, but I know not everybody does, and I'd really love to hear your opinions. Anyways guys, getting into the build, what do you guys think? This is a total departure from the very basic, bare bones, function over form farmland designs we were just looking at a couple minutes ago, and I think they look wonderful. As you can see, we've got a few different kinds of crops here. We got our wheat in this massive field in the middle, we got our carrots on one end and our potatoes on the other, and then we got a little bit of a pasture going on here for some sheep of all different colors. And lastly, in this section, there was going to be a cool looking rustic European style farmhouse, but I got lazy. But don't worry, because I'm going to be showing you guys another build very shortly. If you've been around the channel for a while now, you probably are familiar with this kind of style of like old rugged stone wall that I've used in quite a few different builds by now. I always really love how rough and rugged these guys look, and I think they add a lot of really nice detail to a build. I've expanded upon that, of course, by adding in some pathways here using a combination of the path blocks and various brown blocks like the concrete and the coarse dirt, and even adding in some kind of not quite hedgerows, but really more so a combination of like a hedgerow and some shrubbery, so that when you're walking down these, especially with shaders on, it really feels like you're right in the middle of a massive plot of land, and that someone has been through here, clearing away the land, making room for all of their agriculture. Anyways, you can really see how I'm working with the terrain here, right? Like I did do a lot of terraforming, but the basic shape of the terrain is still there. We've got this giant kind of oval-shaped island, and I'm really not trying to modify that too much. I'm not making rigid square farms or anything, really working with the natural curvature of the land, especially with our pathways as they snake around these higher and lower sections. Combine that with our shrubberies and our walls we were just talking about, and it really creates a more natural, more organic shape. Something you'd find before the days of factory industrial farming when things were done by hand. But if you wanted to, oh my god, the sheep escaped. How did you do that? I thought these barriers were impenetrable. What the heck? Anyways guys, if you wanted a more modern interpretation of some farmlands, I've actually got something for that as well. Behold. Look at this beauty. I originally created this build all the way back in my 7 quick tips video on country farms, which is still to this day one of the 7 quick tips videos that I enjoy the most, despite it not getting too many views, at least by modern standards. Something about this build really just struck a chord with me, and it's continuing to do so. But yeah, why is this more modern? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the house, which is over here. Now, of course, I kind of pulled a green here, and we don't want to talk about that one. But yeah, this farmhouse is fantastic, even if it's just a facade. But it's definitely done in a more modern style. Like, you could go drive to a really rural, agricultural part of the world, and you'd still probably see houses like this even today. We're using a modern build style, a modern color palette. Second of all, of course, we've got vehicles. Not only do we have this amazing tractor over here, which is not my design. I don't quite remember where the original design was from, as I said, because I made this build over a year ago, but I will put credit to this down in the description if I can find it. And over in this cool little barn over here, which I do remember was built by Corrales all the way back in 2013. The inside is done by me, but the outside is done by him. We've got a couple other little tractors and farming vehicles over in here. Still looking fantastic to this day. Adding in these little bits of modern technology definitely goes a long way to make a piece of farmland like this look a lot more contemporary. But yeah guys, those are my 2 different interpretations of what I would call an insane farmland build. The more rustic one, which we looked at previously, and of course this one, which is a lot more modern. And these are amazing. These all look really nice in my opinion. Especially this one, because as you know, I didn't build it a year ago. But if we're being completely honest here, I would probably never build a farm of this size in survival Minecraft, especially if I actually intended to like harvest the crops every once in a while, which I probably would like to if I was building a farm in survival Minecraft. Yeah, this is not practical. But what if we took a lot of these same aesthetic choices and design elements and shrunk it down to something that you, yes you, could feasibly build in Minecraft survival? What would that look like? Well, let's go have a look. I'd say it would look something like this. Now, this may seem familiar to a lot of you guys, but in case you are unfamiliar with what you're looking at behind me right here, this is actually my starter area from my 1.18 survival series. It was a whole lot of fun to do a good old-fashioned Minecraft survival series, and I really enjoyed it while it lasted, but unfortunately, I think I'm not really ever gonna go back to it. But talking about the build here, it's definitely a bit on the large side. I mean, this wheat field is still pretty massive, and of course we got the potatoes and the carrots over there, as well as a little bit of animal stuff going on. I'm definitely using a very similar wall design. It's, if anything, a little bit more dilapidated, and I'm using a little bit more of the moss, right, between the moss carpets, or that's actually not a moss carpet, but you know what I mean. That's the moss carpet, and the mossy cobblestone, and all of that, just to add a tiny bit more greenery. But the basic structure of the pathways snaking around in between these gray stone crumbling walls is very much the same. But yeah, I would say that this is by far the best example I've ever made of this style of farmland done in a more manageable, smaller scale, survival friendly version. And now comes the section of the video where I normally do a build tutorial, as you guys I'm sure are familiar with by now. And unfortunately we do not have time to cover the build for the actual starter house over here as much as I would like to, but that's okay because I actually made an entirely separate video on how to make this starter base right here from start to finish. Gonna put a link on screen right now and you can go ahead and click that if you're interested in that tutorial. But as for the farmlands, I figured that while we were here, I could show you guys how I construct these walls. Alright, we're back at the insane build, and first of all, the most important thing to consider when making a wall like this is, well, where it actually goes. A wall that has this much texture detail and depth and all of that really shouldn't be going in a very straight geometric line. This is about as straight as I think you should make it. So as we're thinking about shape, let's go pick out our block palette. In this case, I only used stone and andesite. So of course, I've got the smooth stone and the andesite, got the full blocks of both, gonna put those right there, and we're gonna fill up our inventory with the slab versions. We're gonna take the stair versions. There's one right there and one right there. Gonna take the andesite wall, cause why not? And I didn't do this in the build we're looking at right now, but we've got 2 extra inventory slots, so why not throw in a little bit of cobblestone? I like having the cobblestone full block and the cobblestone wall. The slab and the stair, we'll skip those for now. But yeah, as for finding a shape, one thing I like to do is just to work with the existing terrain. I think this tiny island right here will be an excellent example, as we can take this little bit of shoreline right here and put a very nice little wall around it. I'm going to be cleaning up all the sand here just to have things all completely uniform with grass. Obviously you don't need to do this, but I just think it looks a little bit better. Also going to take this time to smooth out the terrain a little bit. We've got a couple little sharp corners here, which I think are not really going to look too great with the gentle curves of our wall. It's got this weird little block hanging out here. We don't need that either. All right, that is definitely looking a lot better. Now for starters, you might have picked this up in the time lapse, but the first thing I like to do is outline the basic shape with just full blocks. So I'm going to go in with just my stone. I'm going to do a really rough outline of where this wall is going to go for our farming area. It really doesn't have to necessarily line up exactly with the shoreline. It's just going to be a rough general shape. You know, you can have a little bit of variation here, like I'm having to poke out a tiny bit in this section and then shrink back in. Something along these lines is going to be perfect. Then I'm going to be filling in the remaining gaps with some andesite and the occasional little bit of cobblestone. Next up, for the flatter sections like here and here, I'm going to throw in a little bit of wall action just to break things up a tiny bit, add a tiny little bit more depth. Maybe we'll do something like that. And of course, if you got any weird sections, just go ahead and patch those up. You want to have one continuous wall throughout. Then really all you got to do next is just go nuts with your decorative pieces, your slabs, stairs, walls, and full blocks on the top. Maybe we'll go ahead and start at this end and just plant like a stair here because it's going to be tapering off a little bit, and then maybe just to keep the curvature of things a little bit more gentle, maybe we'll do just one block here and then a slab. Then maybe we'll do a wall and then, I don't know, another stair. I don't like when the walls just poke up like that, so I like to have them attached to either a stair or a full block. Gonna be bringing that over this way, maybe another stair over there. Let's go ahead and do a full block. No, not cobblestone. Let's do a stone full block. And yeah, you know, we're really just continuing this very random assortment of blocks just across the entire direction of the wall. You know, there really isn't too much rhyme or reason to it, and that's the important part. If you want your wall to look all old and dilapidated and run down and stuff, it's very important to have this chaotic randomness, and it's fun too. It's really fun to just go nuts with the blocks. It can be kind of difficult at times to look at it and say, yeah, you know, this is a good build because of how random and weird things are, but you just gotta have some confidence in yourself, you know? That's really the most important part. One of the most important skills you can possess as a builder in Minecraft, or really as a practitioner of any sort of artistic medium, is just confidence in your own work. You know, don't let that boil into hubris or anything like that, but really just don't be afraid to be proud of what you've created. Of course, accept criticism, understand its flaws and its imperfections, but beyond that, it's important to have pride in the things that you do. Wow, I didn't expect things to get so sincere and heartfelt there, but you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Once you've got this jagged, random upper section of your wall in place, the last thing I like to do is go to the corners and just thicken them up a little bit, give the wall a little bit more girth, I guess, just to make it a tiny bit beefier, I guess. I'm using a lot of strange words here, but you guys get what I'm saying. This can be as simple as just putting a stair or even a slab in the corner, floor, or building up an entire separate section, maybe like with walls and stuff like that. Now let's talk detailing work. First of all, of course, you can add in mossy bits to this wall if you want to make it extra rundown and overgrown. Of course, like we were looking at for the balanced version in my survival world, moss carpets, mossy cobblestone. You could even replace all the cobblestone here with mossy cobblestone, and that would be a really nice way of doing it. Of course, if you're playing in survival, you also probably want to light your farm, and lanterns are an excellent way of doing that. I would say just don't spam them too much. Keep in mind that you don't need a crazy amount of light. If you're looking to make a gap in the wall for like a pathway or something, I like to just tear out 3 to 4 blocks worth of space, and maybe also don't forget to like taper things a little bit. You don't want a very sharp drop off here where the wall ends. I'm gonna grab another stair and just put that right there. Now we've got a little bit more of like a rounded entrance way right there. And with that being said, guys, I think that's just about all the video time we have for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on it down below, and if you are not subscribed, consider doing that. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, my dudes, this has been Leon, and I will see you guys in the next 3 ways to build video. Take care.